I began making this video yesterday and then got 41 minutes into it and experienced technical difficulties. So I'm going to show you what it's all about. Anyway, what popped up on my search engine yesterday was this article: why people still believe Hamilton was robbed in Abu Dhabi. That was yesterday. We're in January 2026 and this is still popping up on the internet. It's never going to go away. Just like the topics of Crashgate, Spygate, and every other scandal, they will be there for the history of time. This one's going to get overturned, though. Okay, but we'll get there with it. Now, what I do go through in this video, and I'll just fast forward. I'll go into the article on this MSM. I'll just quickly show you something before I get into that. What it actually says. It says, why people still believe Hamilton was robbed in Abu Dhabi. The Abu Dhabi finale wasn't just heartbreaking, it was suspicious to many viewers. Hamilton drove a near-perfect race until the final twist. There is something peculiar about how the outcome hinged on interpretation instead of performance. That's what keeps the debate alive. Some moments never settle. So that's what the article was. And then it went into the video that accompanied it, which was DRIVER61, Scott Mansell's explanation of Abu Dhabi 2021. So I was going through that in my video. And this is a video I've been through before. And literally all this time on where we are being presented with, oh, why is that? Well, there's nothing new from him. It's just a regurgitation of that video. Well, within that, various adverts came up. Then I experienced technical difficulty in that it froze. So essentially, where I got to it was it froze here. I couldn't get it going again, and it essentially ended the video. Now, when I press on this, I'm doing this real time now. I don't know whether this will refer to the comments, because I can no longer access this via my search engine, bizarrely. So if I go onto that, let's see how many comments there are now. Still only 7 comments, bizarre. And my comment is there 22 hours ago. See YouTube channel fixed for the truth. The entire thing was a fraud. Okay. Still, only 7 comments. And these are now being registered this length of time ago. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through the actual video itself, which is used in that article, which is this one, Robbed, which you can see is 4 years ago, 2.7 million views. This man, DRIVER61, has had the opportunity to expose 2.7 million people to his valid insight, so they think, because he presents himself as having expertise as being a driver, and I'll just rip that apart. Now, I've done this before. I've gone through here. Did F1 break their own rules? So this is this one, 3.74 views. So this is, if you go on to YouTube, I've just typed in DRIVER61 Abu Dhabi 2021. These are the search results. So there's that one, which is broken down in my video, and then this one, Robbed, which is the one that I'm going to go through now. Now, did I do... I don't know if it's got... no, this is the other fraudulent stuff. DRIVER61, Lewis to blame for Silverstone. Oh, man, that lad likes to suck dick. Anyway, let's get into this video and show you the absolute bullshit that Scott Mansell of DRIVER61 is coming out with now. So, let's probably...
So fair play to...
Yeah, we're not. We'll rewind this. And we'll fast forward the advert. Bear with me. So this is the video that appeared on the article on the internet search engine yesterday. And this is the video from 4 years ago, which has got 2.7 million views. And again, we can look here at the statistics on the video itself. It's got 2.7 million views 4 years ago. DRIVER61 with 1.44 million subscribers. Okay, 1.44 million. That's 1,000,000 440,000. I don't even have 40,000. I don't even have a quarter of that. And this is this man's version of it. Oh, but 67,000 people like that. This is the mind conditioning. This is the brain condition. And this is the mystery algorithm. The mystery algorithm will recommend this kind of content that he puts out to people, but it won't recommend what I'm going to expose about it. So this is the control of information. What I ask from you, if you're a decent person that seeks the truth, you somehow either share this to others so that they become aware of it, or you produce your own content explaining what I'm explaining. My channel will be shadow banned. The algorithm is not going to recommend this channel to other people because it is too damaging to all that are involved. To all that are involved, it damages them. And it is going to be costly to all of them. The thing is, they're all owned by the same set of billionaires that also own social media, therefore are in control of the algorithms, therefore are in control of the information that people receive. So they're not going to want people to be able to understand what it is I'm saying. It's only going to be a small audience to make me believe that I'm able to have an impact. So a few people might get to see it. And then what they do, they introduce the troll farms to create the conflict to deter people. Okay, people get to a point where they get tired of arguing with these twats that we see come to the comment section. This is all part of the dynamics. Anyway, let's go through this video and you'll see what a load of shit it is. So this is the video. Okay, remember, was Lewis Hamilton robbed? A 12-minute video seeing Wales robbed. And we know that this is an Abu Dhabi fraud. We know this revolves around the last 5 laps. Let's see how this guy presents it. Cocksucker extraordinaire, and you'll see why.
What a final race that was. And after this season, could we expect anything less from the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix? Was the first lap incident between Hamilton and Verstappen fair? Was Perez's defence on Hamilton fair? And what on earth happened at the end? Let's...
3 questions. Now this is the expert, the expert with 1,440,000 followers, and he's asking the question, was it fair? Well, I can answer that, and we'll answer it.
Get into it. So the race started, and by the end of turn 7, we had our first bit of controversy. Hamilton again got a blinder of a start, with Verstappen not getting away very well at all. And with Hamilton on the inside, he slipped into the lead quite easily. Even though Verstappen's start wasn't great, his tyres were up to temperature quicker, and he was looking quick in the first few corners. He got a great run out of the turn 4 hairpin and was...
That's turn 5.
In Hamilton's slipstream. By the end of the straight, Verstappen was 2 or 3 car lengths behind Hamilton.
By the end of the straight, Verstappen was 2 or 3 car lengths behind Hamilton. Right. What are the rules of engagement, Scott? The expert driver, because you do motor racing and you present yourself as a YouTuber with expertise in motor racing. Braking zone. Has Max Verstappen achieved the location of his car that entitles him to be afforded track room around the corner? No! Can you tell us that, Scott? Can you explain that to us?
At the braking zone, he didn't look like he was in a position to try and make a move.
Absolutely right there, Scott. So what does that mean? That means you've got to back out. In order to be entitled to track room around that corner, you have had to do one of 2 things. If you're attacking on the inside, you have had to got your car at least halfway alongside the car that you're trying to challenge. That's for attacking on the inside. If you're trying to make the move around the outside, you've got to have got your car at least level with the car that you're trying to overtake. So, with those criteria, Verstappen is attempting a move up the inside, going into a corner. So at the braking zone, he has to have got his car at least halfway alongside the car that's in front to be afforded track room. Now, that is determined at the braking zone. What we get from the so-called experts is the notion of who won the race to the apex, which is a new thing that they've introduced to try to validate Verstappen's dive bombs. And it is completely invalid. The reason it is invalid, which Scott Mansell, Driver61, can't explain to you, okay, he'll validate it, but he can't explain the implications of it, is that at the braking zone, the driver is braking his car to an appropriate speed, which will allow his car to go around that corner under control. Now, the speed that he goes around that corner and the line that he goes around that corner and where that leaves him on exit of the corner are all intrinsically linked. If you carry too much speed into the corner, you're not going to be able to remain on track on exit of that corner. Hence, you're not in control. Hence, you're infringing by going off track or you ram into the barriers. So you've got to decelerate your car to take an appropriate speed into the corner. The line that you can take around that corner is going to be then a key determining factor as to the speed that you can take in. If you're allowed to be on the racing line, which means wide on entry, sweeping across to the inner part of the corner, which sweeps you out to being wide on exit, you know, the racing line, that means you can carry maximum speed through that corner. If, however, you have to leave room for a car on your inside, it means you can't sweep over to the inner curb at the apex of that corner. You have to leave at least a car width. That changes your line around that corner, meaning you have to carry a different speed into that corner, meaning you have to brake differently for that corner. By the same token, if there is a car on your outside, it means that going into that corner, you have to decelerate your car appropriately so that when you exit that corner, you leave a car's width on your outside. You can't carry so much extra speed into the corner that after you've passed the apex, your car naturally carries out to the outside of the track because you run your opponent out of track room. You know that your opponent is there. You know that you have to leave them track room because that is part of the rules of engagement. So therefore, you have to slow your car to an appropriate speed to afford them that space. All that has to be done at the braking zone where you are decelerating your car to an appropriate speed to take the appropriate line around the corner. Hence, you have to make the assessment of the relative locations of the cars at the braking zone to determine who is entitled to what track room. Hamilton was ahead. Verstappen was clearly behind, clearly hadn't positioned his car at least halfway alongside. That meant Hamilton was entitled to the line around that corner. Verstappen had to yield. They are the rules of engagement that the driving expert here, Driver61, cannot explain to you because he likes sucking Max Verstappen's dick. He likes attracting the strap-on fanboy. That is lucrative to him. Okay, that is lucrative. That helps him attract his following. That means his videos get boosted by the algorithm. That is the version of events they want people to understand. They don't want you to be able to understand the mechanics of motor racing, actually what they actually are, why it is that this assessment has to be made. No, they want to excite the kiddies with the dive bomb. Oh, this is what Max does, everybody. Isn't it amazing? No, it's not amazing. It's illegal. The other drivers don't do it. Why is that? When they do it, they get penalised for it, and we'll come to that. We'll carry on with the video.
And yet, as we've seen before, he still did. But before we get into whether what happened was fair or not, it's worth talking about Verstappen's jink and dive technique.
Let's validate Max Verstappen's dive bombs, and I like to call it Max's jink and dive. Cock.
That's not actually what people call it, but it's what's going on. I think I'll coin that one. It's where Verstappen and other drivers turn the car sharply just before the braking zone, and then...
Yes, let's turn the car sharply just before the braking zone. Fucking great advice, Driver61.
Brake hard. They then drive in a diagonal line down to the apex of the corner. It's...
Validating it. What about the rules of engagement? What about, Lewis Hamilton at the braking zone has made the assessment, well, the attacking car has not reached the point that's halfway alongside my car. Therefore, he's not entitled to be left space. Therefore, I am entitled to the racing line. I'll put my car on that. Oh, now there's a car that's driving his car at me. Now I need to take evasive action. Oh, there's a problem. Can you identify that, Scott?
Not the quickest racing line, but it's great for overtaking because
it's not the quickest racing line, but it's great for overtaking. No, what, driving your car at another car is great for overtaking. Thanks for your valuable insight, Scott.
You can brake late, and the diagonal route to the apex is actually shorter than a normal racing line.
Yes, right, okay. If we just drive our car in a straight line, it doesn't go around a track, Scott. All right? Yeah. You've got to make it around the track. So therefore, you've got to take the appropriate speed around the appropriate curves to make it around the track. And if you just drive your car as fast as you can at a particular point, what happens after that point, Scott? Oh, it just carries on. Oh, and doesn't leave the appropriate room for the other car on the outside as you go around that corner. Is that okay, Scott? No, it's not. But you're validating it with I call it the jink and dive.
Increasing the opportunity for an overtake. Any car has a finite amount of grip from the tyres, which can be used in braking, turning or acceleration. That's why most braking is done in a straight line before a corner, so the car slows as quickly as possible before
no shit, Sherlock.
Turning in. If you brake and turn, you'll be using some grip for turning and so won't slow the car down as quickly as possible.
Oh, but Karoon will tell you, Max carries so much extra speed that it's understeer. Oh, yeah, it's because you're going too fast and therefore your car doesn't turn. It wants to carry on in a straight line. It's called inertia. That's what it does. It wants to just carry on with the existing momentum that it's got. Yeah.
That's why Verstappen turns sharply, then drives it in a straight line to the apex for maximum braking. Okay, so Verstappen lunges.
He drives it in a straight line to the apex for maximum braking. Bollocks. Okay, he doesn't drive at an appropriate speed to drive around that corner, leaving appropriate room for the car on his outside. Where, having got to that apex, where is Lewis Hamilton going to go now? Having validly selected the right speed, put in the right braking force to go around that corner on the racing line, which he's entitled to do, now this car has to make adjustments to that. This car now can't be on that line because if he remains on that line, he gets hit because of the other car's actions. So he has to take evasive action. That creates a danger to Hamilton, who's carrying the speed to go through that corner on the racing line. When he deviates from that racing line, now what? Oh, and that's been forced into that situation by the illegal driving of Verstappen. Talk us through that, Scott. Talk us through that.
Hamilton, but gets ahead by the apex. Lewis tries to turn in.
Oh, let's validate the Max Verstappen apex rules.
But Max is already there. The two make very slight contact. Verstappen keeps it in the track.
The two make very slight contact. So, if Hamilton was fully entitled to the corner based on the locations of the cars at the braking zone, meaning that Verstappen had to yield, but didn't yield, and then the two make contact, well, whose fault's that? Oh, well, that would be Verstappen's fault. And when you make contact, that means you've caused a collision. That results in at least a 5-second penalty. It's not a racing incident when somebody has done something that is wrong. You've caused a collision, 5-second penalty. There was slight contact, though, according to DRIVER61.
In between the white lines, and Hamilton skirts.
Max keeps it in between the white lines. That's not the criteria. You have to leave a car's width on exit. Is there a car's width on that track for Lewis's car on exit? Clearly not. Had Lewis attempted to keep his car there, Max would have hit that car. So, being the driving genius that he is, Lewis saw what was happening, was able to assess what Max was doing with his car, realised that if he remained on the track, Max would hit him. So in an act of self-preservation, Hamilton took evasive action, took himself out of the way. The mark of a champion.
Across the runoff, keeping his...
Now, you look at the location, the actual layout of the track. Having had to take evasive action, how do you rejoin the track? Well, you could try and come along here, but then you are driving over curbing, which might be raised and therefore might damage your car, might impact the aerodynamics of your car, impacting your entire race. And also trying to do that, what that's going to do is make you lose time to somebody that's just performed an illegal maneuver on you. So, having been forced off, when it's not your fault, you can then rejoin the track in a manner where you do not lose the advantage and you do not damage your car, which is what Hamilton's done. This guy has to go around here, but he's the guy that's forced the other guy off the track. Well, he now wants Lewis to give that place back. Poor Israel Verstappen, once again, the victim.
Position. So let's look at it from the perspective of each driver. First, Verstappen. He was on the softer compound compared to Hamilton, on which he...
Let's look at it at the perspective from Verstappen. He was on the soft compound of tyres. This is nothing to do with tyres. When you are assessing the locations of the cars going into the corners to determine who has the right to the corner and who is entitled to be left track room, the tyre compound is irrelevant. When making that assessment, Lewis Hamilton, the lead car, has to determine where is the location of my car, where is the location of Max Verstappen's car on this occasion. Max Verstappen, is he halfway alongside me? Is he not? If he's at least halfway alongside me, I have to leave him at least a car's width on the inside of this corner. What Lewis Hamilton doesn't have to do is go, right, where is Max? Is he at least halfway alongside me? And what tyres has Max got on? And what tyres have I got on? Those rules of engagement are absolutely nothing to do with tyre compound. What one driver can do on a particular tyre compound is completely different to what another driver can do, depending on the setup of the car, how they're driving it. It's different, the skill of the driver. It's nothing to do with tyre compound. But DRIVER61 can't explain that. But what he can do is try and validate it for Max.
He was supposed to get the better start and gap Hamilton over the first 15 laps.
Max was supposed to get the better start and gap Hamilton over the first 15 laps. Now that didn't happen, did it? Let me just go to what did happen. Well, what did go on is that this is lap 13 of 58 and Hamilton is gapping Verstappen by 6 seconds. Oh, who's got the faster soft compound tyres? Who's on the slower medium compound tyres? Who's gapping who? Oh, let's have a look.
Struggling too, down an 18th at the moment.
Fernando, we keep losing gears. This might continue to happen.
Oh, and that's not what you want to hear when you're trying to keep...
So, are we in for another tyre twist, Crofty?
The Ferrari of Charles Leclerc at bay as they make a move into the pit lane. Down at Red Bull is Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen's pitting those soft compound tyres. Now, we know that the soft compound tyre wears out. He's 6 seconds behind. And now he's going into the pit, so he's going to be even further behind.
Coming in, yes he is. Lap 14 of 58 and Max Verstappen about to make what should be his one and only pit stop of this race.
His one and only pit stop. So he's now got to go all the way to the end of the race on hards.
Hard tyre goes on and he'll come out, hopefully for Red Bull, if they've got their strategy right, ahead of Carlos Sainz. Perez slips through into second place.
Oh, they didn't get their strategy right, did they?
For the Ferrari,
Red Bull played some clever cards.
Making its way down into turn one. He's not going to come out ahead of Carlos Sainz. Where is Max Verstappen going to come out onto this track? He goes underneath it now. He's trying to put the power on and onto the track he goes now. He is ahead of one Ferrari, but only just as Charles Leclerc goes off. And maybe a bit distracted by Verstappen coming onto the track. Leclerc going very, very wide, losing a place to Tsunoda.
So, having now pitted, is 28 seconds behind Hamilton. Now, 28 seconds buys you quite a lot of time, doesn't it? 28 seconds worth of time. If you lose 22 of them seconds in the pits, then, you know, that's what you lose. So you were 6 seconds ahead. You're now on the medium compounder tyre, and he's now on the hard compounder tyre. You were lapping faster than him because you clearly got a gap of 6 seconds. You've still got life in those tyres because everybody else on medium compounder tyres keeps going till about 20-25 laps. What do Mercedes do? Well, the thing is, if you keep him out there, knowing that he's got at least 10 laps of life left in his tyres, able to, you know, use the advantage of that. If something happens in the next 10 laps, then such as a safety car or virtual safety car, then Lewis can benefit from having his pit stop, and that pit stop only not losing the 22 seconds that Verstappen has just lost. Lewis might only lose relative to Verstappen when Verstappen having to slow down on the track due to the safety car or virtual safety car, you know, travelling to a delta. Hamilton can jump into the pits, okay, and get back out on track and end up ahead by more. Unless it's a full safety car when all the gaps will get wiped out anyway. But if it's just a virtual safety car, then Hamilton's got the benefit of the virtual safety car where Verstappen slows down more and actually Hamilton can gain some time through the pits. When he pits, he'll only lose, say, 10 to 15 seconds as opposed to the 22. So this 28 lead, he doesn't lose 22 seconds of it by that pit stop, relatively speaking. Mercedes throw that potential away, don't they? That's rather bizarre. Why do you copy their strategy? Why do you put Lewis Hamilton on hard compound tyres at this when you had the opportunity of doing another 10 laps on mediums, meaning that when you did go onto those hard compound tyres, you'd got another 10 or more laps advantage of less use of those tyres, the fresher hard compound tyres, you know, that would fire up on any kind of restart, Martin, you know, them ones. Why have you thrown that away, Mercedes? Oh, why did you pit him before Red Bull pitted their other soft compound runner whose tyres were going to wear out before yours as well? Why did you pit Hamilton so that he came out behind Perez, enabling Perez to block him off? Mercedes? Why did you do that? Is this Bono, Pete Bonington, the master strategist, using his intellect to best plot Lewis Hamilton's way through that race? Is that right, Bono? Well done, Bono, the fucking master brain. Is this what it was, lads? So that's what really happened. 6-second lead. Let's go back to Scott.
So after a bad start, he needed to make a move as quickly as he could.
Because the plan was for Max to gap Lewis. Well, he didn't, and Lewis was the one that gapped Max. Was that because, I mean, let's face it, Lewis has got himself ahead. But if the plan was for Max to gap Lewis, well, that would indicate that Max should have been faster in the early stages of that race. But it turned out that Lewis was. Now, why was it that Lewis was able to get 6 seconds on Max? Because surely if you're 6 seconds behind, you're not being affected by the dirty air all that far back, are you? And if you're not being affected by the dirty air, then surely you should be able to put in faster lap times, which he wasn't. So that makes a mockery of the dirty air narrative, doesn't it? He was in clean air, and Lewis was still gapping him. That makes a mockery of the tyre narrative, doesn't it? Oh, Max on the fresh softs should be gapping him. Oh, he wasn't. Talk us through that, Scott.
Verstappen's championship position also meant that he could be bolder with his wheel-to-wheel racing.
Oh, Max could be bolder with his wheel-to-wheel racing. What you mean there, Scott, is Max can afford to crash out. That's not being bolder, okay? That means Max can crash Lewis out, meaning that he's also out himself and still be the world champion. Why is that? Oh, well, they've gone into their level on points, but Max has won 9 and Lewis has only won 8. Okay, what's the points then? Oh, they've got half points in there. Why have they got half points this year? Because at the Belgian parade, they gave Max 12.5 points and Lewis only 7.5 points. And that was also this extra race win, apparently, that separates them just on race wins, not on points. So what you're saying is, at a race which wasn't a race, they gave Max 5 more points than Lewis. So really, that shouldn't have taken place. He should be 5 points behind Lewis. Oh, you can't be so bold then, can you? You can't be so bolder in your racing and risk crashing yourself out and taking them out and being world champion when you're 5 points behind. And you'd not won that race because it wasn't a race. The Belgian parade wasn't. They lied to the globe. Okay, because the FIA's own criteria is when you begin proceedings with a safety car and you're lapping behind the safety car, the FIA's own regulation is such that the race will be deemed to have started when the lead car crosses the start-finish line for the first time after the safety car has returned to the pits. That is the first moment where cars can contest for position. That never happened. All that happened is that safety car led the procession of cars out of the pit lane. It paraded them around the track twice and then into the pits, and all cars followed. Never at any stage were them cars able to contest for position. It was not in any way a race. Sky Sports F1 lied to you. They pretended it was a race. It was categorically not. The FIA defrauded you. It was categorically not a race. Driver61 can't explain that to you. Scott Mansell here, the expert of the sport, with a following of 1,440,000, cannot do that, but what he can do is suck Max's dick.
Plus, it's Verstappen, who, as we know, absolutely sends it with...
It's Verstappen, he absolutely sends it, kids. Oh, it's Verstappen.
Any opportunity. There's no doubt this was an aggressive move, but this time...
Aggressive. No, illegal is the word you're looking for. Okay, but you like it. You like telling the kid, oh, that's aggressive. We like aggression, don't we? Now, would you like being on the receiving end of aggression, Scott? You know, if somebody used a move on you that could be deemed aggressive, would that be okay, Scott? Let me know what you think, Scott.
As opposed to some of the other incidents we've seen this year, Verstappen managed to keep it on the track, within the white lines.
No, but that's not the criteria, Scott. The criteria is you've got to leave at least a car's width on your outside, within track limits, for the car that you're attempting to do the move on. So again, you're disinforming the population, Scott.
So, in my opinion, Verstappen made an aggressive...
Your opinion is flawed, and yet you're projecting that. You're disinforming 1.44 million people. That's damaging, Scott.
move, but one that was completely legal. He did force Lewis...
No, it's not. No, it's another one like Karun Chandok, where Max is the expert of the guidelines, that the guidelines were secret for several years. And then it's all about interpretation. But Max is the expert of that. No other driver does it. Funny that, isn't it? Funny that.
Lewis off the track. But Lewis was on the outside and could have yielded a little bit earlier.
No, he'd earned the right to the corner. Don't say he's now the person that should be yielding. The person that should be yielding is the person who hadn't earned the right to the corner. Validating Verstappen.
Keeping his car on the track. The way I like to think about racing is that as long as one driver doesn't T-bone another, aggressive racing is okay.
Wrong, Scott. You see, if you drive like that, there's a greater chance of a collision. Now, Formula One, you don't really think about it this way, Scott, but think about every other form of motor racing. If a collision occurs on the track, then thousands of pounds worth of damage is done to these motor racing cars. These motor racing cars, in the lower formulas, they can cost £300,000 a car. And if somebody is driving against you and their car hits your car and they've not been obeying the rules of engagement, there's been a collision and then thousands and thousands of pounds are done in damage to your car. Whose fault is that, Scott? And the kiddies don't know. The kiddies, oh, it's the insurance. They'll pay for that. Don't worry. The insurance will pay for. Who's paying for the insurance? Because what the insurance should be doing is taking some money from everybody, and with that money now collected, if something goes wrong, they pay out some of that money to correct the error. Okay? But what if everybody's doing it wrong? Everybody's driving like that. Everybody's damaging each other's cars. And the insurance, having taken in a small premium from everybody pays £1,000 insurance premium, probably more for motor racing. But everybody's now claiming £30,000 for the damage to their car caused by somebody else's reckless driving. That model doesn't work. There's not the money in the pot to pay out everybody that for the damage. Oh! We've got to have rules. We've got to have a code of conduct for how people drive, Scott. As the motor racing driver, Scott, surely you'd understand that. You apportion blame. Who was responsible for this damage? What are the rules? Who was doing what? Oh, there's fault. But as long as they don't T-bone each other, I'm okay with it, says Scott. Thanks for your valuable insight, Scott.
Maybe it's because of my racing background, but
Oh, maybe it's because of your racing background. You're a real motor racing fan, aren't you, Scott? With a racing background and a real motor racing chair. I mean, you're not showing it, Scott. I mean, in the background, you've not got your little models, you know, your helmets on the shelf, you know, your little model cars, you know, and your motor racing chairs, because that's what most of the real motor racing lads, you know, have to demonstrate about themselves so that they, you know, they've got authenticity when they're talking about motorsport. You've got the Toto Wolff effect here, haven't we? We know the concrete background and the black polo neck for dramatic effect.
I like aggressive racing, and I accept it when someone does it to me. In terms of keeping on the track, or
you accept it when somebody does it to you. Okay, all right, fine. That set the precedent.
not. Imagine there's a 2-foot deep gravel trap on the outside of each.
A 2-foot deep. Oh, you mean a ditch? 2-foot deep gravel trap. What's one of them? Oh, is the car gonna like catapult over and like kill the driver if it's 2 foot deep, Scott? Imagine that. I imagined a race where there is a gravel trap on the outside of the corner at the Austrian Grand Prix of 2021, Scott. I didn't imagine it. It was actually there. Let's have a look. Not Abu Dhabi, Austria, not that one. Here it is. Look, here it is. Lando Norris, who was running second at the time, tried to defend against the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, the Minister of Defence, okay, but Lando was defending against him at turn 4, which resulted in Perez going off track and joining back in 10th. Oh, so a car got pushed off into the gravel. Imagine that, Scott, right? Norris was given a 5-second time penalty for the incident. So the defending car pushed the other car off, right? And because he pushed the other car off, he got given a 5-second penalty. There you go. Now, this one, Perez received 2 5-second penalties, having been judged to have forced Leclerc off the track on 2 occasions. You know, into this 2-foot deep gravel, Scott. Yeah, Austrian Grand Prix 2021, Scott. Earlier in the season, Scott. Do you understand, Scott? Let us know what you think in the comment section, DRIVER61.
Each corner. Would this affect either driver's racing? In this case, Verstappen would have done exactly the same. However,
in this case, Verstappen would have still forced Hamilton off the track. Oh, but when Lando Norris did that to Perez, Lando got a 5-second penalty. When Perez did that to Leclerc twice, he got 2 5-second penalties. But Max would still do the same thing, says Driver61, without penalty. Thanks for that. Thanks for your valuable insight.
Hamilton would have backed out a little bit earlier and kept his car.
But Hamilton would have backed out again if there'd have been a 2-foot gravel trap.
on the track rather than cutting across turn 7. And I'm not picking on Hamilton here. Verstappen has used the
But you're sucking dick.
runoff to his advantage many times this season too.
I'm not picking on Hamilton because Verstappen's used the runoff to his advantage too. What you're calling what he did at Brazil, using the runoff to his advantage. Driving another car off the road by going into a corner so fast that he can't keep his own car on the road, and you're calling that using the runoff to his advantage. You cock-sucking C-nut. Some of the most dirty driving you'll ever see, and you'll call it using it to his advantage. What did he do in Saudi? Did he use the runoff area to his advantage there when he drove into turn 1 with so much speed that he couldn't keep his own car on the track? Driving out of control in breach of the International Sporting Code. The driver standards in the International Sporting Code. In breach of that, oh, he's using the runoff area to his advantage, says Scott.
Which I don't agree with. I see this as Lewis now pushing the rules as Verstappen
You see this, Lewis pushing the rules.
has in the past.
So Lewis having to take evasive action is Lewis pushing the rules, is it?
But still, it doesn't make it right. And that leads me on to Hamilton. He did see Verstappen late. He probably wasn't expecting a lunge from that.
No, because he'd earned the right to the corner. The other guy hadn't. So he knew he'd got entitlement to the racing line. And then he had to take evasive action. And then he was forced off the track in doing so, because had he tried to remain on the track, he'd have been hit. And then he's looking at how am I going to rejoin this track by not then becoming disadvantaged by a car that's performed an illegal move on me and not damaging my car by going over any raised curbing. This is the World Championship at stake here.
Far back. But he will have studied what happened in Brazil and Saudi and thought through the scenarios at each turn in Abu Dhabi, knowing that if he cuts across turn 7, he might get away with it.
Yes, Hamilton would have analysed the Abu Dhabi track and realised that if he cuts that corner, he might get away with it, says cocksucker Scott Mansell. Really? You think that was Hamilton's mindset? Hamilton was thinking, oh, I can cut this one and get away with it. Or really, he was reacting to a situation where he had to take evasive action and then in the moment is trying to make a decision about the best way of rejoining that track where he's not going to damage his car and he's not going to lose out to a car that's just performed an illegal move on him. Oh, but he'd have thought this is a corner I can cut, says cocksucker Scott Mansell.
He did in the end. In my opinion, it's not right, but
in your opinion, in your orange opinion, you fucking cunt.
it seems to be within the FIA's rules at the moment. So fair play to Lewis for pushing this. And so Hamilton led Verstappen away with apparently no investigation necessary from the stewards.
So Hamilton left Verstappen away with no investigation. Right, so this is a 12-minute long video from him. We're 4 minutes 28. And all we're doing is talking, oh, was Hamilton wrong on that one?
And Lewis was in control at this point, seemingly pacing away from Verstappen, whose rear tyres were going off quite quickly.
Verstappen's rear tyres, you just told us earlier in this video that Verstappen, the plan was that Verstappen was the one doing the gapping for the first 15 laps. Lewis was in control now though. Was that just because he was in the lead? What if he hadn't have got him off the line? Then what? Would Lewis have been able to stay within 6 seconds of him? Would Lewis have been able to stay, just drop back 2 seconds out of the dirty air and manage it from there? Why couldn't Max just drop back just 2 seconds out of the dirty air and manage it from there? Surely on those fresh, soft compound tyres that would fire up on the restart, surely that would give Max the pace advantage then. But he couldn't get by. Why was that? Why couldn't Max get by legally on those soft compound tyres? Why was that?
Quickly, the two pitted on laps 15 and 14, both for the hard tyre, while Perez
on 15 and 14, so yeah, Mercedes threw away that advantage of having the tyre with the extra longevity, a medium compound tyre that they were on, and Max has just gone on to hards. So you'd think, despite being used, it should still be a fast tyre, the medium compound tyre. Has Max started to demonstrate that the newer tyre is providing that much more grip that he's now starting to make inroads into that what was a 6-second advantage that Hamilton had got? Is Max now going, oh, now Max is on these new tyres, he's now lapping half a second a lap faster than what Lewis is, and within now, if it's half a second a lap, within 12 seconds, that 6-second advantage, within 12 laps, that 6-second advantage is going to be wiped out. So Mercedes need to react to that. We didn't see that, did we? No. Bono there, the strategist, couldn't work that out. Couldn't go, we'll see what performance is, the relative performance of Lewis on the mediums compared with now Max on these now hards, and we'll have a look to see if Max is going to be lapping faster than Lewis, and at what point we make the decision to say, okay, this is the point now where we'll get you in. We've made sure that Perez cannot be a factor in this, okay, ideally. And we'll pit you at a point in time where there's a safety net where we can get you in and out and keep you ahead of Verstappen. But we've got a 6-second window. We can see how this plays out for several laps and see how this is evolving. Oh, they didn't do that, did they?
In third, stayed out and took the lead. And that takes us to our second incident. And that takes us to our second incident. Sergio Perez's defense on Hamilton. Hamilton exited the pits 11.3 seconds behind Perez, and within 4 or 5 laps.
Hamilton exits the pits 11 point whatever behind Perez. Why did you do that, Mercedes? All part of the show. All part of the show. Disadvantaging your own driver. Bringing the other Red Bull car into play. He was on the soft compound tyres. Them soft compound tyres should have worn out well before Lewis's mediums. Once Perez pits and loses 20 seconds further back, then he's not in the equation when you pit Lewis. Why did you put Lewis behind Perez? Absolutely ridiculous. And then what Perez does is not fighting for his own position. When drivers are racing in Formula One, right, they are supposed to be racing. When you race, you are trying to outperform the other car. Now, there's something called defending, which is taking a line around corners whereby they can't get past you, but it's not slowing down to make sure that you are backing your car into the back of the field for the benefit of somebody else. You see, Lewis did do that himself at one of the Grand Prix when he was in a title fight with Nico Rosberg. But that was a strategic call because it was done for his own benefit. Lewis was competing against Rosberg, and by Lewis beating Rosberg and Rosberg still picking up the points for a second position, for example, Rosberg still wins. What needed to happen is Rosberg needed to finish behind other competitors. So Lewis wasn't trying to back Rosberg up to help somebody else. Lewis was doing it for his own race. Okay, so Lewis was particularly driving a certain way so that it was maximising his own chances in that race. Okay, we can go into the merits of the ethics of it, and I agree. The point being whereby we are saying it's about racing should be about racing. You going as fast as you can, them going as fast as they can. But the notion of defending, trying to prevent them from making an overtake, that bit's allowed as well. When you're doing that, you're not using the racing line, meaning you're going slightly slower than your optimum. But that's the nature of defensive driving. Purposefully going slow, to purposefully slow somebody, specifically to aid another driver, is disgusting. Lewis when he did it, wasn't specifically trying to aid another driver. What he was seeking to do was to aid himself in trying to ensure that the the guy that he was contesting with in the championship would come under attack from the other drivers, giving Lewis the chance of gaining the points differential that he needed. That's a different set of circumstances altogether. So we'll get back to what Perez did and how Scott Mansell describes it. Now, remember, we're still now 5 minutes into a 12 minutes presentation. We're not talking about the last 5 laps of Abu Dhabi yet. And that's the key.
Had caught him. Initially, after catching him so quickly, I thought Hamilton was going to cruise past Perez on his old tyres. However, it seemed Perez was being the ultimate teammate and was caught so quickly as he...
Again, the tyre narrative. Perez now on old soft compound tyres, which should be worn out now, right? Lewis has got fresh hard compound tyres. The fresh tyres being better, oh, and Perez can still keep him behind. Tyre narrative.
Had been saving his tyres and battery. When Hamilton was first on the back of Perez, Verstappen was 8.7 seconds back, before some of the best defensive driving I've ever seen. Hamilton...
It's not defensive driving, it's illegal driving. Again, you look at the driver's guidelines, it was erratic. When you are racing somebody, these cars don't have brake lights, so you cannot actually, and in fact the speeds that they're going, you can't actually respond to brake lights. You're trusting your fellow competitors. You are both trying to make it around the track as fast as possible. Okay, so you are trusting that they're trying to do the same. If they are going massively slower than what they should be going, effectively it's like having to respond to a brake test from them. They are driving erratically. Essentially, Lewis Hamilton was having to react to Perez's driving in a similar manner that you would where a driver brake tests you. You are on exit of a corner, and what you should be doing is trying to immediately get as much momentum as you can, and when the driver in front isn't doing that, you risk driving straight up their backside. And you have to then react to that because of the erratic manner of their driving. If they are going around a corner, and normally going around the corner, these drivers are trying to carry as much speed through there as possible. If the car in front purposefully is slowing down, you happen to react to that. That's not good. That isn't good. And this is where I'm not fully validating what Lewis did to Nico Rosberg. But what I'm saying there is the difference being is that Hamilton was doing that for the purpose of his own championship. Perez is doing it for a teammate's championship. That's not okay. That's not proper racing. That is a breach of the guidelines. A breach of the regulation. The breach of the driver's, the International Sporting Code.
Hamilton got a good exit coming out of turn 5 with DRS and had already passed Perez up the inside. But then Perez came back at him in the braking zone, knowing that Hamilton would be very careful around another Red Bull, and rightly so. Hamilton then made it back. And
rightly so. Knowing that he got another late lunge that he had to avoid being involved in a collision from. And rightly so, says Scott.
Past Perez, only for Perez to re-overtake with a DRS pass. Absolutely incredible. Then in the second half of the lap, the twistier section of Abu Dhabi, Perez was actively slowing his car in front of Hamilton. Perez wasn't using...
Yeah. And Hamilton had to respond to that.
All the track, was slowing the car down at the apex on the slow corners and making life very difficult for Hamilton.
And all the commentators and this guy are eulogising that, making that sound like it's okay.
It's not very sporting, but Red Bull were putting out everything in an effort to...
It's not very sporting, and you show us two people shaking hands.
Get Verstappen back in the game, and it was working. Slowing a driver down like this, especially Lewis Hamilton, actually requires a lot of skill. And Perez...
Oh, it requires skill. You're not explaining to people the dangers of it and the fact that it is dangerous and it is illegal. But you're saying it requires a lot of skill. Cocksucker Mansell.
Perez was placing his car in all the right, well, wrong positions. Lewis actually called out for dangerous driving from Perez.
Yeah. because it's dangerous. When you're trying to drive on the limit, drive as fast as you can, and you have to contend with that, that is erratic driving from the other car. That's dangerous. Who's at fault when it comes to the insurance side of this thing? If you happen to go into a car that's driving erratically and dangerously, because it's not predictable. When you're driving cars around a motor racing circuit, there has to be a degree of trust in your fellow competitors and predictability. There has to be that. If they are driving in a way that is erratic, i.e. you couldn't predict what they were actually going to do, what, because you're trying to go around the track as fast as possible, because yeah, that's motor racing, and this guy wasn't doing that. And therefore, because you were trying to do that in the expectation that they were also trying to do that, then that caused you to actually drive into them, because they should have been driving off into the distance as they're going around this corner, on exit of that corner, and they purposefully weren't. But because you know that you're trying to get the gas down, get on the gas, get the acceleration going, because that's what you do, and you then found this car on the middle of the track in front of you that is not doing that, whose fault is that? Well, that's the erratic driver. And you're calling that the skillful driver, are you? No, the skillful driver is the driver having to actually cope with that shit that they shouldn't have to be coping with.
And he was going so slowly. In just half a lap, Verstappen caught them by 6 seconds. The trick,
driving 6 seconds off the pace in half a lap. That is disgusting.
with defensive driving is to do all the slowing on the apex of the slow corners. At this point in the corner, the driver behind won't be able to go around the outside.
You talk us through how to drive illegally there, Scott. Thank you.
It's simply too far around there and they're basically blocked in, unable to get on the throttle. And so if the driver in front is going 10 miles an hour slower than normal, the driver behind simply can't do very much. However, go too slow and the driver behind might be able to get past. As everything in racing, it's all a balance. Perez played his team part very well here.
Oh yes, we've got this wonderful graphic of what? Of some mythical figures. A dog. And God's it. Oh, yay, that's great for the kiddies. That is, Scott. Thanks for that. Cock.
And realised the gravity of his defensive driving. In a post-race interview, actually saying, "I'm sure Lewis will understand. As a driver, you don't want to get involved in their championship. They've worked so hard to..."
Oh, you don't want to get involved in their championship, but you did.
To be in this moment, but it's my team. I've done it for my team, and I'm sure the sport and everyone will understand. Verstappen, however, was rightfully thankful, saying Checo is a legend, with his engineer replying, "An absolute
Yeah. Oh, you like that, don't you, Scott? Oh, yes, you like that.
animal," and I'd agree with that. After that, Hamilton once again eased out a lead. He was inherently faster than Verstappen. Then on lap 30,
Inherently faster? You're smoking him.
36, there was a virtual safety car. Hamilton
Lap 36, virtual safety car. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look. Here it is, lap 36 of 58. Hamilton in the lead by almost 6 seconds.
Corner. So I can't believe they'll cover that in anything other than a virtual safety car, which means then, of course, the leaders will pit.
He is parked in a very handy spot.
Virtual safety car, which means the leaders will pit. But you see here, if a 6-second lead, if you pit and Verstappen doesn't pit, you're now behind him. And then you've got to get past somebody that will take you out if you try to. That puts you in a precarious position. So you can't guarantee that Verstappen's going to pit. You're in the lead. Oh, because you threw away like the advantage of your having these tyres that would then give you all the advantage to the end. You threw away that. You know, you had Perez bring that gap down to nothing, which have then extended out to 6 seconds again. All right, because he's faster. But what have we got? You started on mediums, he started on soft. Look at the other drivers that started on mediums. Well, he's gone to here. This one's 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 gone to here. Oh, all the medium runners. What's this one? Lap 26 on mediums. Why did you pit on lap 15? Why did you copy Red Bull's strategy? Why did you throw away the extra advantage you could have got by having fresher hard compound tyres? Why did you do that?
If he wants to go and pop onto a boat, like Kimi Räikkönen did once when he crashed out in Monaco, there is the virtual safety car. As you said, Martin, not a very handy place indeed for moving that car. So, on the exit of turn 9, there is a stranded Alfa Romeo. We now have a virtual safety car. So, all the drivers decrease their speed by 40%, no overtaking. The race pretty much gets neutralised. But these cars can pit, and Ted Kravitz, I get the feeling some will be coming in.
So the Ferrari first of all is pitting, and it
10 seconds.
So staying out.
Lewis Hamilton is staying out.
Thought it would be an easy decision. Even if they're thinking of pitting later on, they're staying out. That's odd. So it is Charles Leclerc just waiting to see whether Fernando Alonso. Surely this is a gift for Alonso and Gasly to pit as well. The Alpine mechanics came out to the pit lane.
So bearing in mind, when you've got a virtual safety car, all of the drivers react to that in a certain way. They're not immediately right. And what we saw was an interval of approximately 6 seconds, immediately jumped to about 7.5, 8 seconds, and now it's come back down to 6.8 seconds. So what we need to look at is, at the time that they deployed the virtual safety car, the interval between Verstappen and Hamilton was about 6 seconds. Now, Verstappen is going to lose time relative to that because he's going to pit. Okay, so we know that under normal circumstances, they lose about, in his first stop, he lost 22 seconds. Let's have a look at what this means to Verstappen.
They're just checking their wheel guns, hanging around like nothing's happening, like they haven't been told, and now they're sort of not doing anything. McLaren are coming out as well.
Ted, the reason Alonso and Gasly aren't pitting yet is they haven't reached turn 6 yet, but Verstappen's coming in, I think.
Box and pit confirm, please, Max. Box, pit confirm.
You've got to, yeah.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a cheap pit stop, probably 10 odd seconds. Put some different tyres on it, and you know, there's his second set of brand.
So 6.8 at the point in time that Max goes into the pits, he's showing us 6.8 seconds behind Hamilton. We know that's probably 0.8 of a second further back than what he really should be. Okay, because he's, you know, when things should have evened themselves out, he should have been able to gain, let's even call it a second. Let's say he's lost a second, and when actually both cars get the delta right and it all kind of evens itself out, Max should be saying, let's call it 5.8. 5.8, 6 seconds. Let's call it 5.8. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's call it 5.8. So Max is a second further back than he probably should be. All right, but now he's pitting.
A brand new hard compound tyres. It's a no-brainer. They haven't got the pace to win this by catching and passing the Mercedes. So that was do whatever Hamilton doesn't do.
And he can also utilise this bit of track underneath the tunnel, maybe to shave off a little bit more time as well, because the safety...
So now we've got an interval showing at 22.8 seconds. 22.8 seconds is what the interval is now showing. 6.8 to 22.8. Well, there's a difference of 16 seconds. Under virtual safety car, the pit stop has taken 16 seconds out of Max's race. Now, what we're saying is that 6.8 seconds should have only been 5.8 seconds. So this 22.8 should, when he exits the pits, this is now he's 22.8 seconds behind Hamilton. That was already a second too much going in. So we should say he should be entitled to get down to 21.8 seconds behind Hamilton for when this restarts. That is what should be able to happen. Verstappen should be allowed to get to behind by 21.8 seconds. That is fair.
Car at one line and won't be with him until he makes his exit from out of that tunnel and back onto the track again. Perez is going to pit too. So Hamilton continues to lead from Verstappen, but Verstappen's now got a brand new set of the hard compound tyre on, and he really can chase after him in a moment.
Michael, please, no safety car interferes in the race, please not.
Toto Wolff playing his role.
That's Toto Wolff saying, don't give us a safety car and close the pack up, especially now Max Verstappen's pitted on and is on fresher tyres. Can he do that sort of thing?
I don't think that's right, trying to influence Michael Massey's got a safety, he's in charge of safety around here. And, but I guess what Mercedes were nervous of there is if Hamilton pitted and Verstappen stayed out and kept track position. So it was really only ever going to play into Red Bull's hands because they've kind of lost it at the moment. They've lost both championships at the moment, the way the race was unfolding. But you couldn't send marshals out into the exit of turn 9, 120, 130 mile an hour corner with just double wave yellow flags. You couldn't do it.
So the virtual safety car is ending as they are pushing that Alfa Romeo away.
So the gap to Verstappen now, 17.9 seconds.
Where's the 17.9 seconds? Because this is showing 22.9. What's going on there?
How is it 17? How has he not lost to 21 seconds?
Who knows? And like I say, you know, what's going on there? And what did I say? It should be down to 21.8 and it's 21. We know he lost 16 in the pits. Now, his 5 had 16 is 21 seconds. So immediately. What's going on there?
VSC, Lewis.
We're going to be in trouble. Cut us out.
So a safety car, a virtual...
And now we're down to 19.2.
Safety car, a safety car reduces your pit stop...
18.4. I see these much fresher tyres firing up on any kind of restart, is it?
Loss to about 13, 14 seconds. Normally, it's about...
17.6. What's going on?
22 seconds. That is how Verstappen has got a cheaper second pit stop. But what this means now is that on lap 38 out of 58, it is...
17.1. So we're telling me, according to this data, right? According to the data, within the space of, let's see how many seconds this is. Virtual safety car ending at 1:05.54. The gap is almost 23 seconds. 22.959.
Happened now, 17.9.
So 1:05.55. The gap is virtually 23. He's being told it's 17. Right? We'll get down to 70. So we're at 23 and we get down to 17. So we gained 6 seconds in how long? We gain 6 seconds. According to this data on this screen here, 22.959 comes down to 17 in how long? And we'll look at this here. Look at this counter in the corner.
Seconds.
How is it 17? How has he not lost to 21 seconds?
VSC, Lewis.
We're going to be in trouble. Cut us out.
So a safety car, a virtual safety car, a safety car reduces your pit stop loss to about 13, 14 seconds. Normally, it's about 20.
So there's 20 seconds, and we've dropped down to a gap of 17.6, and it was at 23. That's magical driving from Max. Max has just gained 5 seconds in 20. That's the fastest car you've ever seen. He's just closed up 5 seconds within 20 seconds. What's going on there? Ahead of that virtual safety car, Hamilton had a lead of 6 seconds. Right? Hamilton had a lead of 6 seconds. That virtual safety car cost Verstappen 16 seconds in the pits, according to this data, making the gap then 22 seconds. And then within 20 seconds of that virtual safety car ending, that gap's down to 17.5 seconds. How does that work then? How does that work? Talk us through that, Scott Mansell.
Hamilton didn't pit as he would have lost track position, but Verstappen did for a new set of hard tyres. And again, it looked like the race was back on. Interestingly, at this point, Toto Wolff asked Michael Massey not to call a full safety car, which frankly is annoying. I know all the team principals try to do this, but don't tell them.
He was playing his role, Scott, but frankly, you needed to draw everyone's attention to that as being annoying because, again, you've got to fluff the Red Bull narrative, haven't you, Scott?
The race director what to do. When the track went green again, Verstappen was 17 seconds behind Hamilton with...
Yeah, he was 17 seconds behind when the track went green. Well, according to the data screen, he was almost 23 seconds behind. And that 5.5, 6 seconds got wiped out within the space of 20. If he's 17 seconds behind, yeah, he was 6 seconds behind before it happened, right? It took 16 seconds to go into the pits, change the tyres and come back out, and lost 16 seconds relative to Hamilton's positions at that. Well, that gives 22 seconds, and all of a sudden we're back down to 17. Something's not right there, is it?
20 laps to go. Verstappen needed to be 0.8 a lap faster to catch Hamilton. However, he just wasn't catching fast enough, and it looked like the championship and the race was all over. On lap 53 of 58,
so 8.5 minutes into a
Verstappen was still
12 minute 15 second long presentation. We finally get to the cheating that was the last 5 laps of Abu Dhabi. Nicholas Latifi's crash.
12 seconds behind Hamilton and was actually lapping slower. As we've seen so many times with Lewis, he can be extremely quick on old rubber. That's why you should never trust him when he complains about his tyres to Bono. Then Latifi had a shunt after...
And we shouldn't be trusting Bono with his strategy calls. Latifi had a shunt. Do you want to talk us through that? You know, the fact that Latifi goes around turn 14 every lap in 4th gear. This time, when it had to be this lap, Nicholas, he selects 3rd gear. Well, they do the choreographed little dance, him and Mick Schumacher. It's the dirty tyres now. Selects 3rd gear with the dirty tyres, floors the throttle. The back end steps out when he's got a steering angle on. Who'd have thought? Ends up in the wall. But it had to be this lap. So Nicholas made sure it was this lap.
Running on the dirty part of the track and ended up in the barrier at turn 14, which started a bizarre sequence of events that ultimately decided the championship.
A bizarre sequence of events. Talk us through them, Scott.
It took a few laps to clean up Latifi's car, and I thought the race was...
It took a few laps. How many laps? A few. A few. You're the expert, Scott. You're the expert with 1.44 million subscribers to your channel. You know, you've got the opportunity to tell 2.7 million people, which is only 2% of those who actually watched the event. Only 2% got a chance to believe you. I mean, the percentage that get a chance to see me is a fraction of that. Yes, that's how they control the narrative, Scott. The truth doesn't get revealed to the people. So it took a few. Well, what we saw, Scott, the evidence is on lap 56. The actual crash took place when Lewis Hamilton was 0.6 of his way around lap 53. So you've got the remainder of lap 53. It took lap 54, lap 55, and then as they're coming round there on lap 56, we see the marshals jumping over the barriers. So it's 3.4 laps it took to remove the, well, put the fire out, remove the car, sweep the track of both the debris and the fire extinguisher powder. 3.4 laps. Is that a few? Can you be specific, DRIVER61? Because I can evidence it, okay? Because that's what happened. Now, what still would have had to happen is the clerk of the course would have been able to, would have had to inspect it, radio back to race control, saying that yes, he was now content that the track is safe and race control can now carry out their procedure, which is the mandatory unlapping procedure prior to the resumption of racing. That resets sporting fairness, because you see in this picture here, what we've got is the orange car of Lando Norris, who was in a race with Pierre Gasly up until when Latifi crashed, but Gasly was a little bit ahead, And because now we've deployed the safety car, Gasly disappears off around the track and ends up joining the back of the safety car snake. So all these cars that have been held back, they've been left disadvantaged relative to that. So what you have to do is carry out this mandatory procedure to release them, afford them the time to make it around the track and catch the back of the pack, and then, and only then, having achieved the restart condition, which is a line of cars in the correct race order with all the previously built up advantages between all cars wiped out because racing has been neutralised, only then can we resume the race. But you're just about to tell everybody that, Nicholas. Driver61, aren't you, Scott?
Going to finish under a safety car. Of course, that would have been an anticlimax. And
let's have a look about your anticlimax, Scott.
Decided the championship. It took a few laps to clean up Latifi's car, and I thought the race was going to finish under a safety car.
Why did you think that, Scott? Did you think that because there is a requirement to do what I've just explained needed doing? Yeah? Is that why you thought that, being the driving expert that you are? Is that why you thought it, Scott?
Of course, that would have been an anticlimax.
Oh, but you've got to have a climax, haven't you, Scott? We've got to have a climax. We can't have an anticlimax. Instead, we've got to have a climax. No, we've got to apply the rules and regulations of the sport, Scott.
And it seems that Massey also thought the same thing. Although ultimately the point...
Massey thought we've got to have a climax as well. So we've got a referee, well, I'd say we call him the referee. He's just there really to oversee safety and make sure that the rules are applied to the sport. That's what the role of the race director is. But the race director thinks he's got to manufacture a climax rather than apply the rules. That's not sport.
The point of the race and the championship should have nothing to do with a sporting decision like this.
Absolutely right, Scott. Absolutely right. So why are you validating it?
Usually in this situation, the cars that have been lapped are waved through past the leaders and the safety car, so that the race restarts with the drivers in the right order.
Absolutely right. So, but you see, all you've said is they're waved through. You're not talking about the safety car then returns to the pits at the end of the following lap. And what that is doing is affording those released cars the opportunity to make it around the track to try and resume, catch the back of the pack, so that all of the gaps have all been wiped out, and you've achieved that.
Which, in my opinion, is how it should be.
Is that just an opinion, is it, Scott? Is that just an opinion? In my opinion, that's how it should be. Well, why is that? Is that because of the impact it's just had on Lando Norris and all those cars behind Lando? And now restoring sporting fairness to him in his race against Gasly that has just been wrecked due to the deployment of a safety car? And is that because that's what they do at every Grand Prix where this kind of dynamic exists and have done so since the beginning of the 2012 season, Scott? Or is it just an opinion, Scott?
By the time they'd moved Latifi's car, there was just over one lap left and there were still back markers between Hamilton...
No, there wasn't just over one lap left. What it was, by the time the track would have been declared safe, they would have been on lap 57. Had they have released those cars on lap 57, all 8 of them, which were the ones that were required to be released, the safety car returns to the pits at the end of the following lap, and there can be no overtaking until the driver crosses the line to start the next lap. But that would be the start of lap 59. It's only a 58 lap race, which means this is called a safety car finish.
And Verstappen, and not enough time left to let all the back...
But we keep talking about Verstappen. Fuck Verstappen. We're talking about the rules.
Markers between Hamilton and Verstappen, and not enough time left to let all the back markers between Hamilton and his car. There was just over one lap left, and there was still back markers between Hamilton and Verstappen.
They weren't back markers, Scott. You see, Lando Norris is now in 7th position. Define who is a back marker. Is Gasly a back marker in 6th? No, Gasly's not a back marker in 6th, but Lando is a back marker in 7th. How does that work then? They're both point scoring positions in the World Championship. Was Lando a back marker, or was he in a race with Pierre Gasly? You look stuck for words, Scott. Or is you just getting ready for congratulating Max again?
And not enough time left to let all the back markers through and have one final lap of.
They're not back markers, okay? They were still competitors in a race. They were still challenging for World Championship points. They had that opportunity of doing so obliterated due to the deployment of a safety car, and that's why you've got this regulation that restores sporting fairness to them, Scott. Surely, as driver 61, that person that puts himself forward to educate people about motorsport, you'd be able to explain that to people. Just like you can the overtaking rules and regulations, Scott. You know, the rules of engagement. No, you can't, can you, Scott? So what you are, Scott, is a fraud. You're a cunt, aren't you, Scott?
Racing. So what actually happened was that the 5-lap cars between Verstappen and Hamilton were let through, but none of the other cars behind Verstappen. And
so what you've done, you've just now given Max everything that he needs to challenge Lewis. Now you've defended Max from challenge as well. What about third place? What if on the restart Max also doesn't get a good restart like he didn't on the first lap, right? And somebody gets the chance to challenge him. The car that was behind him, like on the first lap, gets an overtake done on Max at the first corner. What happens if that happens? Well, who was third place? Oh, that was Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari. Oh, well, we've left 2 back markers there to prevent third from challenging second. Is that allowed in the regulations, Scott? No, it's not, is it? Is separating out 2 competitors in a multi-competitor event and saying, just you two, we'll pick you two out, you two race off for the win of this Grand Prix. Is that allowed at any Grand Prix ever, Scott? No, it's not, is it, Scott? Let's know what you think in the comments section. Scott?
in addition, the safety car was pulled quickly into the pits rather than waiting a lap as would usually be the case.
Why is that usually the case, Scott? Oh, to afford those released cars the chance of making it around the track and rejoining the pack of the pack to wipe out all the previously built up advantages, therefore restoring sporting fairness and resetting the restart condition for everybody. That would be it, wouldn't it, Scott? Thanks for your valuable insight.
This was very, very unusual, and
It's not just unusual, Scott. It's never happened before and it's illegal. It's not just unusual, Scott. Look at the language we're using. It's not really expressing the magnitude of just how wrong this was, is it, Scott? It's just unusual.
Can't see another reason for doing it other than the FIA wanting to have a
climax. The FIA wanted to give the kiddies a climax. Isn't that right, Scott?
Lap shootout rather than start with
a shootout. When have we had a shootout? You know, we have a penalty shootout in football when the scores end level. But in Formula One, we're manufacturing a shootout, a race-off between just 2 cars, knowing that one car has got this fresh soft compounder tyre and another one's on 44-lap old hard compounder tyres. A fair shootout. Yes, we'll give somebody a automatic rifle and we'll give somebody a wooden spoon. And let's have a shootout, everybody. That'll be fun for everybody, won't it?
Cars between Hamilton and Verstappen all finish under the safety car. As an F1 fan, I actually wanted the same thing too, but
oh, Scott wanted it to be climaxed, didn't he? He wanted a shootout.
Final lap shootout rather than start with cars between Hamilton and Verstappen or
you can't start with cars between Hamilton and Verstappen. Starting with cars between Hamilton and Verstappen leaves Lando Norris tucked up behind Hamilton, almost now a lap behind Gasly, when prior to Latifi crashing, Lando Norris was closer to Gasly than Verstappen was to Hamilton. You cannot restart like that, Scott. DRIVER61.
Finish under the safety car. As an F1 fan, I actually wanted the same thing too, but not if that means bending the rules like this.
It's not a bend of the rules, is it, Scott? It's not a bend of the rules. Talk us through what Brundle and Crofty also talked about, the bend of the rules. Will they let the lap runners through? I'm not sure it's mandatory, but that's normally on a wet day where they don't. And if they do, how long will they wait? Talk us through that, Scott. Talk us through that. Talk us through all the driver communication, Scott. Talk us through Alonso. Yeah, Verstappen's 2 cars behind you. I know, and he should be 2 cars ahead of me. You're in 8th position. Max is in 2nd. That's not 2 cars ahead of you, Fernando. You know, surely your race engineer should be talking to you about who's in front of you and who's behind you and how this impacts your race, rather than talking about how this is impacting Verstappen. What's going on there, lads? Talk us through that, Scott. How come they're all in on it, Scott? How come they're all in on it, Scott?
As we know, Verstappen absolutely sent it again into turn 4 on the final lap, taking Hamilton
Turn 5, Scott.
By surprise, with the two battling for a few corners afterwards and getting so close before Verstappen finally got through with a bit of a gap. The move Verstappen pulled going into turn 4 was unexpected by Hamilton, and honestly me as well, and shows yet again his aggression and confidence on the brakes.
Oh, aggression. Okay, we'll see how you can cope with aggression, Scott.
As we know, Verstappen then went on to win the race and the championship, but Mercedes went on to protest the result, saying that all of the lapped cars should have been let through and the safety car was brought in too quickly.
Yeah, so what are the implication of that, Scott? Well, you've got 2 cars separating out Verstappen and Sainz in 3rd. Oh, well, that meant that Verstappen was protected from being challenged by 3rd place. That's giving Verstappen an artificial advantage, isn't it? That's impacting Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. That makes that restart entirely invalid, doesn't it, Scott? Can you talk about that?
Lapped cars should have been let through and the safety car was brought in too quickly, which...
Yeah, the safety car was brought in too quickly because Lando Norris and all the other lapped cars, they were told that they could go and race while it was still under yellows. You know what you call turn 4, Scott, which is turn 5. On the way down to turn 5, you can see that the yellow lights are still flashing, and then drivers are racing each other on that lap that they're supposed to make it around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking, making every effort to rejoin the back of the pack. You know that one, Scott, that they were illegally racing on? That was a breach of the rules as well, Scott. Can you not identify that? DRIVER61, the expert of Formula 1. Educating the kiddies, educating 1.44 million subscribers on YouTube. And his videos, the mystery algorithm, will allow 2.7 million people to see it, because that's the narrative it wants to project.
I do agree with. The official wording says that any lapped cars should be let through. And so Red Bull came back saying...
Yes, and there's a reason it's any and not all. And the reason being is that it only is detailing the cars which qualify, because if you do get yourself lapped later in that safety car period, you're not eligible to be released. For example, after the safety car has been on track for 2 or 3 laps, if you then pit, go into the pits, so you're ahead of the safety car, Snake, at this stage, not lapped, but you then pit, there's a problem in the pits, for example, and whilst you're in there, dealing with this problem, that safety car, Snake, goes by, well, unlucky. You're not going to get released now. You've essentially, that problem that's occurred, that's now going to impact your race. Okay? It prevents this notion of teams taking the piss and prolonging this safety car situation. So that's the caveat. There's a qualifying criteria. Hence, it's not all cars. So that's why they didn't use the word all.
Wording says that any lapped cars should be let through. And so Red Bull came back saying that any is not all lapped cars. Ultimately, the protests have been dismissed.
We had in the protest Jonathan Wheatley, Christian Horner and Adrian Newey. Okay, they didn't focus on the safety car not performing the additional lap, which would have resulted in this being a safety car finish. What have you talked about that? Sport in fairness not resumed. 2 cars separated out in a multi-competitor event. Carlos Sainz in 3rd being blocked off from challenging for 2nd. 3 cars not being released. cars racing on that lap that they were released on under yellows. Oh, but Adrian Newey, Christian Horner and Jonathan Wheatley are invited into a student. They're summoned to a steward's appeal to provide a counter-argument to Mercedes, who have said, you've broken the rules of the sport. Because they've broken the rules of the sport. The FIA have broken the rules of the sport. Mercedes says, you've broken the rules of the sport. You need to reverse that. So what do the stewards do? They invite in Red Bull. They summoned Red Bull. And they say, Red Bull, we need you to provide a counter-argument to this. That's not how you deal with it. When you get accused as the governing body of breaking the rules of the sport, okay, you assess the rules of the sport and you assess what has taken place and you compare the two. Is what took place in compliance with the rules of the sport? No, it's not. You're absolutely right. We did break the rules of the sport and therefore we need to reinstate this to before the point the rules were broken. The rules were broken on lap 57 when the race director only released 5 of the 8 cars that should have been released. That is a rule break. Therefore, the last valid lap was the end of lap 56. That is the final running order of the race. That is the declared result. If, for example, in football, there was an appeal process and one of the teams appealed to the Football Association saying you've broken the rules of the sport, what does the governing body of the football have to do? The FA, FIFA, UEFA, they have to look at the rules of the sport and look at what actually took place and decide if the rules of the sport have been broken. Do they ask another team, another club, to say, we need you to go and provide a counter-argument to this claim that the rules were broken here? No, they don't. The whole thing is a facade. You see, as well as a facade is that Mercedes sent in there. They didn't send Toto Wolff in. They sent in this guy called Paul Harris, who is a legal barrister, a so-called expert. A so-called legal expert as part of the facade to convince the world that, oh, well, if a barrister can't overturn this legally, then nobody can. That's an entire facade. That is an entire facade. I've done various videos going through the steward's appeal in great detail. There's a lot more to it than that. But Scott won't be able to tell you. Scott won't know. Well, he might know, but he's obviously makes an income fluffing the Dutch sausage, exciting the kiddies, filling the airwaves with disinformation to validate the corrupt agenda.
Isn't the way I want a world championship to be decided, and it does seem like the
I don't want a world championship to be decided by the stewards. So instead, we'll stick with a corrupt decision which changed the valid winner to one who it was set up for. You'd prefer the world championship to be ended up like that, wouldn't you, Scott?
all lapped cars. Ultimately, the protests have been dismissed. This isn't the way I want a world championship to be decided, and it does seem like the stewards are doing whatever they want. As with all sporting rules, we just want consistency, so things are equal for every driver and team, no matter.
Yeah, you know, equal for Ferrari, because you know you got Verstappen that was closed up on the back of Hamilton for that restart. That wasn't equal for Carlos Sainz being closed up on the back of Verstappen, okay? That wasn't the same for Yuki Tsunoda being closed up on the back of Bottas, and because Mick Schumacher was left in the way of that, they were still able to do it on their soft compound tyres. In the weaker Red Bull car, the B team, those two, Tsunoda and Gasly, they also, you know, it's funny, it was just generally mainly the Red Bull cars that benefited from that. The B team cars, they also got into the soft compound tyres. They had Mick Schumacher in their way still, and they still got past Bottas. Anyway, yeah, that wasn't consistent for them, was it? That wasn't consistent for Norris, who's now left over a minute behind Gasly, when previously he was less than 12 seconds behind Gasly. Having been told that he's now racing on that lap that they should be going around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking. Racing under yellow conditions that you can't identify. Scott? Fernando Alonso, more concerned with where Max is than who he's racing against in that race. Strange, isn't it, Scott?
the situation. And I know this is difficult to do in a complex sport, but I feel...
Yeah, it's highly complex technical sport. Don't you go worrying your little head, Scott. I know you don't understand, do you, Scott? Okay, really, you don't have the credentials to talk to an audience of 1.44 million people. But you must make a healthy living out of it. This is what the grifters are in this world. Yeah, you probably, I don't know, I wouldn't like to estimate how much money you make out of disinforming people. But that's the kind of cunt that you are.
Better job could have been done this season. We can't take anything away from either driver.
He absolutely deserved it.
They're pushing as hard as they absolutely can. I think we've seen so many issues this year with the rules and the regulations because of the intense battle. The rules haven't been pushed this hard before.
Oh, we're pushing the rules, are we? No, what you're doing, Scott, is there are a clear set of rules that they don't apply to Max Verstappen. And they did it to enable Max Verstappen and to excite the kiddies. And why have they done that? Oh, they've done it to make money for the show, to attract the audience, to excite the audience, to contrive drama through the non-application of rules and regulations, to manufacture a close title battle, to entrench the rivalry, build up the hatred, build up the partisan fans, cause the conflict that they profit from. And you're calling that
the intense battle. The rules haven't been pushed this hard before.
You call it pushing the rules, Scott. No, it's a business plan. It's a business plan perpetrated by corrupt businessmen who have bastardized what should be a sport, contrived the outcome in it fraudulently because they've sold this to everybody as being a sport that they have contrived. And they're all in on it. They're all complicit with it because it makes them all money. They utilize the media to do it by playing to us the version of events that they wanted us to believe. They've not told the truth. They use people like you to present like this that isn't drilling down to the true dynamics of the situation, just validating it, presenting it's all confusing. What do you think, everybody? This is my opinion. What do you think? It's not about opinions. It's about facts. It's about identifying what actually matters. But no, Scott Mansell, cocksucker extraordinaire. He'll quite happily play his role, presenting himself as the expert.
So Formula One should take the learning from this year and make the rules more black and white for next season.
Yeah, which they did, didn't they? You know, cost cap breach, black and white breach, nothing to see here. Flexi plank, black and white breach, anti-porpoising directive. What was the next one? Asymmetric braking. There's rumours. Black and white. What about this variable bib height device that can change that? Red Bull said they didn't use it. All of that. Massive performance drop-off of the dominant car. Why did that happen? Oh, is that because McLaren outdeveloped them? Or we manipulating this championship to keep people interested? Black and white, isn't it, Scott? Black and white. Black and white. White supremacy of manufacturing it for a white person to win because you didn't want the black person to obliterate all of the records that have been previously set by white people. Black and white.
From that, thank you to Max and Lewis for the most entertaining season of Formula One I've ever watched. By the way, in the last video, we did hit that extra 10,000.
Is that you? You look like a model there, Scott. You look like a model. Anyway.
1,000 subscribers, so my marriage is still intact. But if you didn't sub, please do, and let's all look forward to an incredible...
That's right, please like and subscribe for the algorithm, everybody. The mystery algorithm, it helps reach a bigger audience if you like and subscribe. Oh, you see, it's not going to work with me. It's not going to work, all right? Doesn't matter whether you like or subscribe, okay, because it's just they're not going to show this video to people. So either you physically share it with others and get them to do the same, or what is probably better is you make similar content yourself and you become a, let's call it content creator, or you can call it truth teller, and start waking them up. Because the more channels that are actually producing this kind of content, saying this, which is what I'm saying, it's going to be harder for them to keep suppressing everything. Maybe there'll be a greater chance of this information slipping through their controls, which is hiding it from people, and therefore people actually seeing what really went on. Because my channel's shadow banned. It is what it is. Okay? I have no aspirations of being a massive YouTuber. Okay? But what I do aspire to is changing it and achieving justice. But to do so, we have to take it to where they decide justice, which is the court system. And the court system is entirely corrupt, a corrupt construct that is there to protect power. And that is why you'll hear, oh, it's so complex and so complicated, and you have contradictions. And they are there on purpose so that you can have argument and therefore interpretation, so that a judge can absolve perpetrators of consequence for their blatant crimes, protecting certain interests, absolving certain parties of consequence for what they actually did. That is the construct of the British legal system. It is corrupt. I will keep plodding away and hopefully we'll get there, but understand that we're up against an entire system that is designed to protect wealth and power. We are up against wealth and power. We have to utilise their system that is designed to protect wealth and power in order to hold wealth and power to account for their crime that they did to all of us, defrauding all of us, making them loads more money. That's what's really happening here. So, thank you for your time. This guy's a cunt. See you next time.